Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the Two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at toewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am betterinmotion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha.
Well, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. I'm out in the trailer. I've been complaining about how cold it is here. It's in the 60s again, every day. Well, not right now. It's less than that here now. But I'm wearing an undershirt, a long sleeve shirt, a flannel shirt, and on top of the flannel shirt, I have a shirt jacket that will probably come off as we go, but it's cold here.
Well, it's cool today. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's overcast and the wind is blowing. It's very cool. But I have to say, I'm not complaining. It feels very nice after that hot weather we had.
Yeah.
It was like 110. Like that's still to even now, 2 weeks later, people are still like, how'd you do in that heat?
Right.
What everybody's asking. But so it's nice and it's overcast and breezy and cool. But that's how it was yesterday morning. And then it turned out to be a beautiful day. It was actually quite warm. So
yeah,
that's sort of typical for us, is cool and overcast and sort of misty in the morning. And then
yeah, it's been wet almost every morning here for the last week. So it's been cold in the house. And of course, I am not running the heater in July. That's ridiculous.
I don't know if they have this in other parts of the country, but there's a group in Seattle. All the neighborhoods have a group in this way. It's called Buy Nothing, and it's basically where you can't sell anything. You just post everything up for free. Like, so I've been posting up things like yesterday. Well, the one that I thought was so interesting is I think I got it as a Christmas gift years ago, and it's a for grilling. It's a fork, but it also has a thermometer in it. Like 10 people wanted it, so I just had to pick somebody. And then other stuff nobody wants, But it's kind of fun. I mean, Kelly, remember you were talking about in front of your house, because you do live on a high traffic street. You just were putting stuff out in front, and then it was fun to see how fast it went. And then you started going around looking for things to give away. Do you remember?
Yes.
It's kind of like, it's like now I'm very motivated. And I'll tell you why I'm motivated in a second. But anyway, someone's coming today to pick up. I have an old ice cream maker, that we had probably in the 60s or something, that we used to make ice cream. It's the hand crank kind that you put ice in and the rock salt and stuff. And she's all like, this woman's super excited about it because she's going to use it for their campfire or Girl Scout troop to make ice cream, which is really fun. That's going to get used, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's a little addictive. And you know how I am for years. I have such a hard time getting rid of stuff, but people are so excited about, and this other woman, she's excited because I post up, I have a large, really large stainless steel mixing bowl. And I posted that up, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a baker." And I said, "I'm a baker too." So I thought, God, maybe I'll meet my neighbors this way, because it's just, you have to be in a certain block radius.
Yeah,
so, so probably, I think it's nationwide. I don't know. So let me just say why I'm doing this is, I've, as you know, and the listeners know, my house that I've had in Ballard for many years, I'm getting that ready to rent. I moved into the house that I'm growing up in. I've had to combine 2 households, and I've done really well getting rid of stuff. But there was that last stuff that, that you hang on to, that you think maybe I'll use it.
Right.
Maybe I will make ice cream in the hand crank ice cream maker. And I've been thinking that for how many years?
Right.
My mother had it in her basement, and I thought it's never going to happen. So, and if I do get a wild hair I'll just go buy one again, but I'm probably never going to miss that thing. So there's all kinds of things I'm getting rid of. And little things, but they'll just make space. And so I'm now motivated in the basement because, and Kelly, you know this, and people, if you follow my Instagram feed, you probably know what I'm doing, but I took everything, the basement sort of divided into half. One half is there's a rec room with a fireplace and a bedroom. And the other half, we always called it the dirty part of the basement, but that's where the washer dryer is and the workbench and stuff, the furnace, hot water heater. So I took everything out of that dirty part of the basement and put it into the rec room. Mm-hmm. Then I had the wiring redone, the plumbing redone for a new hot water heater, new washer dryer, new sink. And then we painted the walls because it was just bare concrete walls. Well, actually, they've been painted with calcimine, which is like almost like a chalk-like substance. And it doesn't, you can't paint over it. The paint just peels off. So I had to wash down all the walls. Scrubbed the floor, degreased the floor. So I painted the walls, the trim on the windows. I painted the floor 2 coats of concrete paint on the floors. So now last night I started moving things back. But Kelly, did you look at my Instagram post this morning?
No.
Or I think I posted it last night of the shelving unit, Ben shaking it. No. He said they're not safe. So I ordered last night. I just thought you could go and order and pay for stuff at Home Depot and just go pick it up. So I ordered it and I get a text in about 15 minutes that it's ready. So Ben went over and picked up the shelving units and we built 3 shelving units. So today, after we finish recording, I'm going to now start putting things that I'm keeping back on the shelf. And my plan is if it doesn't fit on those 3 shelving units, I'm not keeping it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And my other plan...
That'll keep you honest.
Yes, this is my other rule. Nothing sits on the floor. Mm-hmm. If I can't keep it, if it sits on the floor, it has to go up on a shelf. Is that a good plan?
Yeah.
Do you think it's attainable?
I don't know.
We'll see.
Depends how many people want your free stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, and I will I think I got kind of motivated too because pulling everything out when I saw all of the stuff in the rec room, my thought was, I'm one item away from being a hoarder. Like one more item and it might be at the tipping point. And then but Ben said to me, a lot of the stuff is not my stuff. A lot of it is the stuff that is other people's stuff that I inherited. So like, I've talked about this before, but 10 sets of dishes that are all inherited from various relatives that I didn't buy. I don't want, but I now have them and I don't know what to do with them. And and then along those lines, having that conversation with Ben sort of motivated me. It did motivate me. And then also he recommended the podcast Hidden Brain. I think the show airs on NPR, but it also is in the form of a podcast. And he had an episode, and I will try and find a link to it. I've forgotten the name of it, but it's something basically why we keep things. And a lot of times it has no monetary value, but it has sentimental value. Mm-hmm. Which is true. Like I have talk about it, these dishes. I have that old treadle sewing machine, things I don't necessarily want, but the people who gave them to me really wanted me to have them. Mm-hmm. My aunt really wanted me to have that treadle sewing machine, but I don't use it. So it's silly to keep it, but I feel sort of duty bound to keep it, and all the family history and photographs, I don't want them. Mm-hmm. And so I've decided I'm going to contact other members of the family and see if they want them so they can store them and not me. Because that was the thing too is
you should just do like my aunts have done and
just drive by and put it on your porch and drive off.
Grab a batch of pictures, stick them in a bag, and just either put them in the mail and send them, or my aunt will send something home with Aunt Betty, or my mom will drop something off when she comes here. It's like you start divesting yourself by giving the stuff to other people. So yeah, like zucchini. You can just drop it on their porch and run.
Speed away. Maybe I should put my family photos on Buy Nothing if you want an instant family. Here you go.
funny.
No, I just think, and like the other thing too is being saddled with things is I adored my aunt. I loved her, my dad's sister, but she did all the family history. And I have 3 banker boxes full of all of her research, 2 trunkfuls of photographs, and I don't know how many plastic bins full of photographs. And I got, chosen or or
Saddled.
saddled with the family history stuff. And the truth is, I don't really care that much. And I know that's terrible to say because everybody's doing all this family research, but somebody else in the family who is more motivated and cares more than I care should probably do it, because my aunt, I think, thought I cared a lot more than I really cared about all the family history. So, anyway, way too much information about what's going on here, but I'm in purge mode.
All right.
So, Kelly.
Yes.
Should we talk about fibery things now?
I think so.
Okay.
You're not purging any of that, right?
Well, I'm not.
But not yet, right?
Not now, but I do need to figure out a different way of storing it.
Well, that's a perpetual question. What do you do?
Yeah.
How do you store
There
it?
is.
Yeah.
So let's get to projects. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first because mine is short.
Okay.
First of all,
is that good? I don't know.
Well, it's fine. It's kind of normal. It's kind of the way it's been recently. But I finished carding I'm going to say finished because the Oxford fleece was in 2 bags, and I finished 1 bag of the Oxford fleece, and it's about 400 grams. And so then I sampled. So I made a 2-ply, about 20-gram skein, I think, of 2-ply, and a small skein also of 3-ply to see which I liked better. And I was thinking I was going to like the 3-ply better, but I actually like the 2-ply better. It's fluffier. Part of it might just be the amount of twist that I put in. The 3-ply, even though I like a nice round 3-ply, this particular yarn that I made, it feels sort of buttoned up. It's kind of like, it's round and bouncy like a 3-ply is, but it feels kind of just too much twist. There's just too much twist in it, and it just really wants to be a little looser. At least that's what I'm thinking. If I had done the 3-ply with less twist, I mean, normally you put a little more in because you're going to be untwisting a little bit more when you ply the 3-ply. And so I think that might be what happened. I wasn't intentionally doing that, but maybe that's what happened. Anyway, it just feels a little too tight, and the other one feels nice and fluffy and loose. And so I think I'm going to do a 2-ply. And so I started a bobbin yesterday, and I managed to spin an entire bobbin, most of a bobbin of this Oxford fleece. So I'm still keeping my options open that I may opt to do a 3-ply. I'm not going to ply it right away. I'm going to think about it, and I'll do a second bobbin first before I decide, but I'm pretty sure I want to do a 2-ply with this. So It's nice. It's springy. It's softer than I expected it to be based on when I was carding it. But it's like a medium, kind of a medium workhorse kind of fleece, but softer than the Parendale, that Parendale braid that I talked about a couple of episodes ago, that blue and green one, blue, green, and yellow, from the prepared fiber that I bought from Sheep Spot. The Oxford is a little softer than that. Actually, feels quite a bit softer than that now that I'm spinning it. Now, I think I mentioned that I didn't do the best washing job when I first washed it, so it was a little sticky. So when I washed it, I just used boiling water in the bowl, along with some soap and washed the skeins, and came out really nice. So
Nice.
I wasn't too worried about. I had done that before, so I wasn't too worried about the fact that it was a little sticky spinning. And it's perfect for spinning now because even though the weather is cool here, it has been in the high 60s. So if I sit in a little sunny spot and spin, it slips really nicely. It's more lanolin-y than sticky once it gets a little warmed up. So, I mean, this is not spinning in the grease by any means. It's
right.
It's clean, but it's still got more lanolin in it than I really like to have. So that's one thing that I'm working on, my spinning project. But I also started another project for our spin-in, which is, making something out of your handspun. So I started a handspun sweater.
Oh.
So I spun the yarn years ago, well, over several years. Maybe people who've been listening for a while might remember. It's the CVM fleece, and I had it processed at YOLO Fiber Mill, which is now Valley Oak Wool Mill, a different owner, but it's up in Woodland, California. And I had when we first moved here to this house, so that would have been 2005. I'd had the fleece for at least a year. Maybe came from the fair in 2004. Sat around here for a while before I sent it away to be processed. And then once it came back, I started spinning it. And I used that same fleece for there was like 6 pounds of it. And I used the same fleece, that sort of taupey beige CVM, for the Orca sweater, the Orca's Run sweater, my big bulky sweater. But this is a fingering weight 3-ply. And then I dyed it red over the kind of beige color. So that made it kind of a terracotta rust. I don't know what you would call it exactly, but it's real pretty. The dye color was called dark red. And I found a pattern. So again, I had talked many times about what pattern I was going to use.
Right.
I had a couple of choices in my queue that I was pretty sure I was going to use one of them. And then finally, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go looking again. And so I found a pattern called Dark Green Forest, and it's by Christina Kerber-Wreath. Kerber-Wreath is her last name. Korber-Reith. She's German. And I actually looked up how you pronounce it in German. And, but I can't say it that way. I did the best I could. But she has some really interesting patterns, nice, kind of the long sweaters that I like, cozy and casual. The one I'm using has a cable, like a honeycomb cable down the sleeve. It's got a saddle shoulder, which I don't know if I've ever done an actual saddle shoulder before. But I think this is a saddle shoulder. So the cable comes down from the collar and then goes down the top of the shoulder and then down the arm. The collar is a square collar. I don't know that it would be called a shawl collar, but it's nice. You start at the collar and go down, and it's one of those collars that folds over and it's just square. It's just
like a sailor's collar. Is that what they call it?
Yes, yeah. I think that is what you would call it. That is what it's like. Exactly like that. And it has ribbing on it. So I've gotten down. I'm in the armhole increases. But I got messed up somehow. And I'm trying to decide whether I want to go forward and see if I'm in the right place for the cable, that cable crossing. Or do I want to rip it back again? Because I already ripped it back once to get back to where I thought I knew where I was. And now it's not looking right. So I have to decide what I want to do. Do I want to forge ahead, assuming that I'm right, or did I somehow make a mistake again, not paying attention, and get an extra row in there? So anyway, that's where I am with that. But I'm really liking the pattern. It's fun. It's well written. I've made good progress, but with a collar that big, I still haven't gotten that far down.
Yeah,
I'm in the yoke, a little bit below what she calls the yoke in her pattern. So, but I'm excited about it. I have a sweater on the needles again, something more than a dishcloth.
Well, I was just looking at the pattern. I think it's a very nice pattern, and I love the color. That terracotta color, I think, is really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I was laughing because I was talking to somebody about making things, and I suddenly realized, like, I like everything I make. I mean, it's good, right? I'm making it, so it should be made the way I like it. But it was kind of funny. This person that I was talking to was much more critical of her stuff than I am. I'm like, oh, I like that you say, oh, I like the color. I'm like, yeah, isn't it great? Oh, I like how your sweater's turning out. Yeah, isn't it great? So
that's interesting. I'm trying to think, do I like everything I make? I like most things. I have to say I like everything I've made. I like the yarn and the color and stuff. Sometimes they don't fit right. You're like, sometimes
I have
too
some
big.
I have some fit complaints about some of the things I've made, mostly related to raglan sleeve shaping that has the raglan part starting at like 2 stitches.
Yeah.
And my top of my shoulder is much broader than 2 stitches. So unless we're talking about, a totally high neck collar, that's not enough. But even those, I mean, I and I guess it has to do with when, right? Especially when I'm making it or when I first finish it. It's like, oh, I love this. Once it's sat in my drawer or closet for a while, I sometimes realize, oh, I don't love this as much as I thought I did, Yeah. I notice because I don't grab it out as much.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no.
I'm not very critical of my own work. I did make one hat that I thought, okay, this is really ugly.
Oh, is that charity hat you made? You were talking about in the last episode or 2 episodes ago?
Oh, no. Well, I guess I could count that one. I think that one's kind of ugly. And, well, not ugly, just not the best thing I've ever made. Yeah, so maybe 2 things. No, this is one I made a long, long time ago, and I was going to a meeting, and I just had to grab stuff to make a hat. I knew I was going to be sitting at a meeting for a long time, so I just grabbed yarn. And the colors didn't really go together, and then I decided to make stripes because I thought, oh, if I make the stripes this way, it'll look better. The colors will actually go together. One was like a teal, and the other one was like a rust color, and they just didn't. That could be a really pretty combination, but this particular teal and the particular rust just wasn't a good mix. So that hat sat in my stash for a long time with me thinking, well, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe if I look at it in a different light, I'll think it's all right. Or then I thought, oh, maybe I'll just over dye it. And I thought, you know what, just put it in the bag of Goodwill stuff. So I finally did get rid of it. One of my, times of going through the closet and getting rid of stuff, that hat went in. So anyway, but those are my only 2 projects at this moment, the spinning project and the new sweater on the needles. So.
Well, very nice.
Yeah.
You're busy.
Yeah, I had hoped to wash fleece, and I won't go into a lot of gory detail, but my top load washing machine from 30 years finally died. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So did you get another top load?
Yeah. It's another just basic washing machine. So it's coming on Friday.
30 years. That's actually a really long time today for any appliance to last.
The one we just bought will not last 30 years, I'm sure.
Well, good.
So we'll hope it works. Nobody at the place knew anything about, things like, can you just...
can you wash a fleece in it?
Right.
They couldn't answer that
Will
question.
it just spin and drain?
Oh.
Can you open it up in the middle of the cycle?
Oh.
All that stuff. They didn't know anything about it. So we'll see. I have my fingers crossed. I think I'll be able to use it. I'll be able to figure something out. It has a pause button, so it locks, but it does have a pause button, so I should be able to.
Yeah,
I should be able to do something with it. I don't know, but it doesn't have. It has an automatic water level. Mm-hmm. That might be a problem.
Oh yeah, because you want to. Yeah,
because I want it to fill and then put stuff in. So I might need to figure out how to make it fill with nothing in it. Stupid. I don't know why they can't just make, I won't go into a rant. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with a regular washer. And I was reading through all of the things and, you need this washer because it's going to make your clothes last longer. I'm sorry. People don't want their clothes to last longer. People want to go shopping and buy a new outfit next month. It doesn't make any sense.
Actually, that's a really good point. I never thought about that because that was the selling point of those front load washing machines is they're more gentle on your clothing because there isn't the agitation. Mm-hmm. But to your point, we don't want our clothes to last because clothes are so inexpensive that we just buy clothes.
And honestly, my clothes have gone in a... Now I just sound like an old lady on a rant, but my clothing has gone into a top-load agitator washer for 60 years. I have never felt like my clothing wore out too fast from going in the washing machine. Never. Not once have I had something that I thought, oh my God, it just wore out so fast from going in the washing machine.
Okay. So since we're on rants, I'm going to add my little rant to this. This is not about washing machines and appliances, which that could be a whole nother podcast of ranting. Light bulbs. So
no, Marsha.
No, I'm going to say, but here's the thing. I remember when they came out with the LED light bulbs and the big selling point of those light bulbs is that they were going to last 25 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. So I had all these random light bulbs and I discovered most of my lamps are 3-way. So I bought all new light bulbs because I had all these different light bulbs. And so I bought all new 3-way light bulbs, put them in probably 2 months ago. And 2 of them have burnt out. Now I think, and I clearly, and I sound like a conspiracy theorist when I say this, but I don't think I am. I think it's the truth. I think they're designed to break because it doesn't make any sense. It's not a smart business model to make light bulbs that last 30 years.
Right.
Because nobody's going to, they'll buy your light bulbs and they won't buy them again for 30 years. So the business model is they use less energy, which is good, but they cost more. Like, I don't know that they cost more to make. I have no idea. They cost more to buy, which is good for the manufacturer. And you have to buy them just as frequently or more frequently than an incandescent bulb. So it's a great business. It's a business model of it makes sense. You don't want them to last. Planned obsolescence. You don't want things to last. You want things to slow down. You want things to break. And anyway, wah. Old lady failure here.
Yes, an old lady Locke having our rants.
Yeah. Okay. Does that make me sound like a conspiracy theorist? Okay.
No. Why would you make something? Why would you make something like a light bulb that would last for 25 years? Because
Exactly.
once people
That's a bad business
it's
model.
not an appliance. I mean, appliances don't even last 25
No.
years.
Your furnace, the furnace doesn't last. I mean, it's funny, the oil furnace that was in this house was put in 1929,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents took it out in the 70s. So that's still but there was nothing wrong with it. They just they were sold a bill of goods that electric was better, which is ridiculous.
Okay, now,
electric.
so last range.
Oh, okay.
So our furnace,
sure.
that big green furnace in the basement that I loved the look of, we had it replaced, and it had trouble, and it was inefficient, and eventually we did end up getting a new one last year because our furnace had gone out a couple of times. Remember, it was out for a while last November a year ago. So it had died. This is, again, 1920s furnace. They had to cut it up to get it out of the basement because it was so big. So we get a new one. And it has a thermostat on it with a programmer, right? Program the stuff. And Robert's like, okay, we have to do this because programming your thermostat is really, really more efficient because, you have it on a timer, blah, blah, blah. I said, it's not more efficient because if you have it on a timer, it's going to come on whether or not I'm cold. If I'm cold, I turn it on. And when I'm not cold anymore, I turn it off. And that's more efficient. It's like, no, it's much better. Guess what? Even though our furnace is much more efficient than the old one was, because we had it on the timer for the winter, our heating bill was more.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm turning that... So now I'm only going to turn it on when I'm cold, and turn it not turn it on in the morning, before you get up. It just
Well, I say that's an interesting point because I know that the reason they say that you should have a program is that then you're not like, oh, I'm cold, turn it up, and then it's putting all this energy into heating it up. It's just like it keeps it at this constant temperature. But to keep it at the constant temperature, you're using energy.
Right. So
I can see these things we accept as the truth that are not necessarily the truth.
Yes.
Well, furnaces, back to furnaces, my friend Susanna, she has a house built like 1900, I think, here in Seattle, and she has the original furnace.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
So think how old that furnace is. It's like over 120 years old.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it works fine. Yeah. So, and I spend evenings in her house, and it's a lovely temperature. So there you go. Okay, enough ranting. Yes. Where are we? I think because we went down this rabbit hole of ranting. I believe I'm talking about my project.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you are. Quickly. No, sorry.
I have to get through these fast. Okay. So do you remember my socks? I frogged my socks. Because you remember the socks I'm making, I forgot to turn the heel. So I ripped that out and I turned the heel, and I'm now working on the gusset.
Oh, good.
I'm working intermittently on the Simple Shawl that I started years ago, but I work on that periodically. I'm still spinning the green brown merino. Nothing new to report on that. So I will don't need to, since we talk so much on our rants, I won't go into all of that. But I did cast on the pullover Atlas by Jared Flood and I'm making this for my brother. In the last episode, I had swatched. I talked all about swatching. And so I'm not getting gauge. I'm getting 20 stitches in 4 inches as opposed to 24 stitches in 4 inches.
Okay.
So based on his size and my gauge, I'm making the smallest size.
All right.
And so he brought back the other Jared Flood sweater I made for him, and which we talked about. Is it cobblestone? I think I made for him. He brought that back, and I measured that, and it's the same. It's going to be a little bit bigger, maybe about 1 inch bigger, which I think is good because he wants it more. As I talked about in the last episode, he wants it a bit more slim fitting. I don't think it should be super slim fitting based on the weight of this wool. So I think it's going to be the perfect size.
Oh, well, that's good.
So that's good. I do have, but now I want to talk about the color work. I do have some concerns about the color work, but I have to let it go because, well, I shouldn't even say this. It's perfect. No, I'm just kind of concerned. So the body of the sweater is this very bright grass Kelly green kind of. And then the color work is in a navy blue and kind of a light blue, like a sky blue, robin's egg blue. My concern is, when you how when you talk about like you take a picture of your color work and put it in black and white, and you see how the colors work then and what stands out. My concern is that the when you look at them together, the light blue and the green sort of blend together a little bit. There's not as much distinction between the navy and the green or the navy and the light blue. I'm committed to using these colors, so I'd have to buy a different color. And looking at the colors, there's not a huge range of colors in this yarn. So my options are like red, brown, white, gray. And that's why I'm kind of wondering if maybe like the white would be, I don't know. I think I'm just going to start knitting it and see how, because I didn't complete the whole color work pattern, and maybe it will all be fine in the end. I don't know.
Well, and Mark chose those colors, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. Though, that's what he wanted.
Yes, but I think there's one thing picking the colors and then picking colors for color work.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't know that much about it, and he knows nothing. Well, he knows a lot about color. Don't get me wrong. And he knows a lot about putting colors together because of his background in design. But a knitted fabric, you know what Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. It's
but he was looking at the pattern. I remember him looking at the pattern and looking at the colors that he selected. So So I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about it. It's just something that just is flickering through my brain. I wondering. But again, when you complete the pattern, it might be fine. Just doing, I think I did 10 rows of the pattern, and the whole color work thing is well over that. So anyway, but the other thing I wanted to say is, do you remember in the last episode we were talking about that in the pattern, it's a very well written pattern, but when you get to the color chart, it actually tells you on each row which is your dominant color. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And so I said, I'm assuming the dominant color is going to be you hold it in your dominant hand. In my case, it's my right hand. That's completely wrong. So anybody who listened and knows anything about color work will know that that's wrong. This is what happens when you have no information, but you act like you're an authority. So Kelly, you had pointed out that Jared Flood actually has a good video on explaining dominance. And so I put a link in the show notes about that. You actually are supposed to hold the dominant color in your left hand. And I recommend the video. There's other videos out there too, but it explains why you want to pick a color as a dominant color. And then also how you, typically people hold the dominant color in their left hand. He is not as fast that way. He actually holds both colors in his right hand, but he has this very interesting technique, which he demonstrates in the video, of twisting your hand so that you have the two different yarns available. And he also talks about, there's another video he does about stranding and how you capture the floats in the back, which is very good. And this is all common knowledge for people who do a lot of color work. Not having done any color work, this is really informative. So I put a link into the video about dominant color. And then also in their patterns, they tell you which is the dominant color, but he said most color work patterns, they don't tell you. So also techniques for deciding which should be the dominant color.
Oh, that's good. Because, I have noticed that that's not something that's usually in the description, at least in the description, like when you read the pattern, the pattern page, the description in the pattern page, you don't see it. Maybe within the written pattern, it will tell you, but that's good.
And then even to the point too, where the dominant color may change throughout the pattern. So, like if interesting. so that was it. Just very interesting, something I knew nothing about, and I made that offhand remark, and I realized like I was wrong. So I just want people to know. And I did. There were some comments in the show notes, and people had posted. One listener posted a link to a video in there. So all that was really helpful. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, that's
so.
Good.
That is it for me with projects.
All right.
Oh, and I should say too about this sweater. And I talked about this before, is that you're supposed to do a tubular cast on and then knit 2.5 inches of ribbing and then start the body. And as I talked about in the last episode, I'm doing a provisional cast on and just starting with the stockinette, and then I'm going to go back and do the ribbing. So I have done about 7 inches of the stockinette. If I had included the ribbing, I'm supposed to knit from the cast on with the ribbing. I'm supposed to do about 10.5 inches of the body, where I then start doing shaping.
Oh, so you're close to shaping.
Yeah. So this, if I subtract the 2.5 inches, I need to knit 8 inches, and I'm about 7 inches now. So another inch, and I'm going to start the shaping. When you do this technique, it's very curly. It's like I'm going around and around and around, and it never seems like I'm getting anywhere, because it looks like a holiday wreath, because it's this bright green, and it's just basically a big log. I mean, a big it's like a wreath, kind of around and around. It never seems to grow.
Just a stockinette tube.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think I may have done this with his other sweater too, is that when I finish the whole sweater, I will probably wash and block it before I go back and do the ribbing, because it is so curly. I think it's going to be very difficult to measure how long it should be.
Yeah.
So, but I'll report in on this. So,
all right.
As I say, that's it for projects for me.
Good. Sounds like you're making good progress.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
On some projects, some not so much.
Well, the summer spin-in is moving along, and it's also Tour de Fleece. I forget what day we're on now. I was doing pretty well at the beginning of it, accounting for what I was doing each day that had to do with spinning. I had a couple of days that I didn't card or spin or anything, so I got kind of off. But anyway, Tour de Fleece is going on. The summer spin-in is going on. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about fiber preparation. So,
and Kelly, you mentioned this last time, but we'll mention again. Don't forget your tetanus shot.
Oh yeah, and then we had some feedback too.
Yeah. So Natalie, Super Kip, she added, "Don't prep fleece when you're pregnant," and because toxoplasmosis is a danger, and I'm not sure what that is. I honestly did not Google it. All I know is it's a danger. So
okay.
And I did watch a video too where she said she always wears gloves. She has latex gloves on, so that's would probably be smart to do too. And then
okay. I have to say I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
I like the feel of it.
I know.
But if you're squeamish about touching the fleece, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, so I wanted to mention that. So should we talk a little?
And then she also mentioned about when we talked a little bit about the rescue fleeces that might have more stuff in the, bargain fleeces that might have stuff in them, more so than something that you'd buy at a fiber festival. And she mentioned a flick carder being really helpful. And I had forgotten to mention that, but yeah, that is a good example, a good use for a flick carder. If you can somewhat keep the locks of your fleece intact when you wash it, if it's the type of fleece where that happens, then you can kind of just brush them out with a flick carder, brush out the ends, and you can get out a lot of the waste that way.
The first thing I was just going to mention is if you get a raw fleece, and we've talked about washing it, but what we did not talk about was skirting.
Okay.
And so I was just going to mention, we won't go into great detail, but the concept of skirting is you lay the fleece out with the cut side down and the so-called dirty part up, and then you just go around and you pull out areas that are matted, or areas where there's like fibers look like they're broken, if there are manure tags on it or bad stuff that you just don't want in there. Probably, as we talked about in the last episode, if you've bought a fleece at, like from a show, or it probably will be pretty well skirted, but it's a good idea just to go through it again.
Yeah.
The other comment too on one of the video, well, I'll just say I put a link into a video by Rain Fiber Arts that was very good, and she is just how to skirt a fleece. And she also talks to, if you look, see if there's any signs of eggs or moths or something, and just don't even let that into your house, if you see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bailey's, Kelly, you can add something to this too about what are your thoughts about things to look for when you're skirting that you'd want to pull out?
Usually the parts that you don't want are around the edges, so like if the fleece has been rolled up, and you can unroll it and see kind of, depending on how it's been rolled and how well you're able to unroll it, you might not exactly be able to see the shape of the sheep. But like the manure tags would be on the back edge. The britch wool, which is the wool on the backs of kind of toward the backs of their legs, is more coarse usually, and that's towards the edge of the fleece. If they have, the fleece around their legs might have been, like the fleece that I was carding, the Oxford, there were some sections of that fleece, some pieces of that fleece that had dark hairs in it from the dark leg hairs in it. Which really, if I had been doing a better job, I would have skirted a little bit better and taken that out, and that would have been around the edge as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes around their neck, you'll find a lot of hay from eating, and so you can take some of that out if you want to, be real harsh with your skirting and get out the most of the veg matter. So a lot of it is around the edges. The other thing that I wish I had done more of with this fleece that I have is, and I did a little bit of it when I was picking and carding, but a lot of times you can shake the fleece. If you can shake the fleece, especially if you have, I would love to have a table that was like mesh, because any second cuts, well, a lot of that will fall away. A lot of the vegetable matter will fall away. Some of the things that you don't want will fall away, and you can see it a little bit better if you shake it. You can see, where are those areas where you have second cuts and those little short bits. So I need to do a better job of that. My habit is, to look at the fleece when I first get it home, and then roll it back up and put it away. And then I get on a tear about washing, and I just grab some of it, what I really should do is lay it back out, sort it, look for places where the fleece is really nice, and put all of that together and wash just that section, and be really intentional about what parts of it you wash, as opposed to just, grab a piece of it that's going to fit in the washer and wash it. So you can be super intentional about your fleece, especially if you get a nice one, right, where you want to keep the nicest bits together. If it's a fleece, like a lot of and maybe this is why I do it, a lot of the bargain fleeces that I've gotten, they're just jumbled in a bag, and there's no knowing what part of the fleece was what. So that's how I got my start, and maybe that's why I have some bad habits when it comes to grabbing out fleece to wash.
Yeah. The first fleece I bought was actually a Shetland fleece, and I just took it out of the bag and I put it in, tore it in half or smaller batches and just washed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake because and now this is specific to Shetland, but I took a class by Judith McKenzie about taking a Shetland fleece, and because the fiber is so different depending on where it is on the sheep, that you really don't want to take you can do anything you want to do, but it's better to separate out the different different textures and fibers, and I didn't know that about a Shetland. So I just, but I think any fleece, there are going to be different textures depending on where it is on the sheep. Yeah. So I did that with it. I just washed all of it and carded it and started spinning it. Is it bad? No, not necessarily, but it could have been better.
Yeah, it's just different. If you want if you want to get like every type of yarn you can get from a fleece, then you have to be more intentional about it, right? You'll find the finest part and you'll make a nice yarn that's fine and soft. With the more coarse part, you'll make something that's a more workhorse yarn. But if you want to just make a sweater, you just mix it all together and make a sweater. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say about skirting is sort of, for me, how I am is like, I want to use every bit of it because this precious thing I bought, I want to use every bit of it. Yeah. And it's okay to be aggressive, that, you don't need to save all of it. It's okay to,
I think I've told this story before about I think it was like 40 pounds of fleece that I got from, I was at a spinning day and somebody said, oh, my brother-in-law has fleece in his barn. Would you be interested? And I'm like, of course. So I went and got this 40 pounds of fleece. And I'm pretty sure that's what it came out to be. And anyway, I opened it all up on my lawn and made piles. And I found myself at the end, even though I had so much of it, I found myself going back to the trash pile and taking bits that I had skirted out and putting them back. So yeah, it's hard. It's greed. Fleece greed is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but some people are better at that than others. And then there are some people who keep their carding waste. When I'm carding and I clean off the carder, the waste that's on the small drum of the carder, I toss it. But there are people who save that and use it for something else, and you can do that if that's, but I that's not something I do. I think about it. And then I tell myself how much fleece I have in the garage and I toss it in the bin.
So about carding, let's talk a little bit about carding then. Oh, I was going to say it's a huge subject, and we can't go into the minutia of it, but let's just talk sort of in general about carding.
Well,
and tools and whatnot.
Put a couple of links in the show notes about it. I have a drum carder, and one of the things that I can say for sure about whether you're using hand cards or a drum carder is that you really want to not overload. Less is more. You really can go faster if you don't try to put too much in. And I have also learned that it's faster for me, even though it doesn't seem like it, if I do some picking first, which is like separating all the fibers. And so I'll just, stand at the table and pick a whole bunch of, like a whole box of fiber, one of those, reams of paper boxes. Like I'll take a bunch of fiber and I'll do the picking until I've got a good amount in one of those boxes. And then I'll start carding. And that really helps because the fiber's already separated and it doesn't get clumped and stuck in the drum carder. And then I usually do 2 passes. And with this fleece that I have, I did the first pass and got a bunch of bats. And then I pulled off strips from each one of those bats and blended them, blended them together and did a second pass. I've done with some fleeces, depending on how much, what kind of fleece it is and how it looks, I might do a third pass. Or if I'm blending 2 colors together, I'll do each color that I'm blending, each part that I'm blending separately, and then I'll pull strips off and weigh them and run them through the carder together, and then probably have to do a third pass to get them better blended. The first pass usually isn't very well blended, and then the second one is much better. So I do a first one to just kind of get everything organized separately, and then a second one to blend, and then a third one to finish the blending if I want the blending to be more even. So, and you can do the same thing with hand cards, the blending. I've done that before. It's not so, I don't do so much weighing. When I use the hand cards, I just kind of eyeball how much I'm putting on. I might weigh it ahead of time to say, like, I want 70% of this and 30% of that. And so I have my two piles. But then when I put it onto the cards, I'm not weighing each time each time I use the hand cards, I'm not weighing pieces of fleece. So yeah, the carding is, I enjoy it. It seems like it will be a slow process, but actually that 400 grams that I carded, went through the carder. I picked it and then it went through the carder twice, and it was a couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3 times during the week. So, I mean, that's not that much. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was that much time.
No, it's not bad. You just listen to podcasts or watch TV or something.
Yeah. So, listen to a Zoom meeting. So that's how I card. Now, the flick carder, we talked a little bit about that already. That kind of requires that you have the lock structure still intact in your fleece. And then I just put it on my lap on top of a magazine on top of my lap, and just brush out the end of the tip end of the fleece, and then turn it around and brush out the butt end of that lock, and then set it aside and start another one. And that works really well. I don't have mini combs, and I kind of would like to have mini combs. I have the big combs that you clamp onto a table, and I took a class on using those, which was really good. But I haven't really used my combs much since then. They're really a nice piece of equipment, but for some reason I'm just not in the habit of getting them out and using them. And I think mini combs might be something that I might like to have, because they're something you can just sit and do.
Right.
So I'd be interested to hear what people think about mini combs. And then the other thing I have not used is a blending board. And I know most of the time people are using a blending board with fiber that's already processed to mix colors together and make interesting roll-logs or poonies. So, but that's not something that I've ever done. So I'd be interested to know how many of our listeners have used either a blending board or mini combs, and whether they think either one of those things is kind of an essential tool.
How big are mini?
Probably about, I would say the ones I've seen, maybe about 2.5 to 3 inches across. They're smaller than hand cards.
Okay.
But they have the same kind of, the same kind of tines at, I think 2 rows of tines. As the bigger combs, and you use them the same way, where you put them perpendicular to one another. You put the fiber on the one comb, and then you
I'm looking online at them right now as we speak. So
I've been thinking about maybe getting a set of mini combs, because that is one type of preparation that I haven't ever done. And I know there are a lot of people who really like it. So, and you can get a lot of the garbage out of your fleece that way, more so than with carding. More waste, there's more waste, but you get to the more of the best part of the fiber out.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, anyway, so that's my my experience of carding and combing fiber preparation. So, and I have like I said, I have a couple of links in the show notes for that.
Okay. Good. The other thing that I thought we decided we should just touch on too is also mill processing. Is that you don't necessarily have to process this yourself. And so we have some links in the show notes. Fiber Shed did a mill inventory of mills across Fiber Shed is a California-based group. So they show one mill in California. They show mills across the country, but they don't have them listed by name. So, the link is in there. It's interesting to look at. There's also a link to a producer directory. And that Kelly, too, we were talking about that before we recorded. That has not just mills, but people who are producing fiber. And also on Ravelry, there's a fiber prep Ravelry group. And they don't have mills listed like a central location to go to see all the mills that are listed. But in the discussion thread, people are talking about the different mills.
Yeah.
I think my sense is what you have to do is you just have to Google mills for processing wool, alpaca, whatever, and search for the mills. I know some of the mills popped up, but I know the three that I know fairly locally to me, they're processing their fiber for their own yarn. They're not processing fiber anymore for people who just want to have a fleece processed. So
yeah,
there are mills out there. I think, though, you have to just Google and start searching. As we said, it's difficult to find one location that just has a list of all of the mills doing small batches in the United States.
Right. Yeah. Valley Oak Wool Mill is the one that I've used in California. And then there's also Mendocino Wool and Fiber Company. Again, this is just California. I think the eastern part of the United States has a couple of really well-used mills, and there are more of them in that area. But yeah, Mendocino Wool and Fiber is the other one. I haven't used them, but their website, I can put their link in the show notes as well. mendowool.com is their website.
But what we talked about in the last episode is, if they can, not all, but mills can either just wash it and prep it for spinning, or you can just have it processed into roving, or you can have it processed into yarn if you want to do that. But that's another resource too.
And it is true. There are a lot more of them that process your wool into fiber preparation. Moro Fleece Works is another one in California that I was forgetting. A lot more of them process into roving than process all the way to yarn. There's a real lack of mills, small mills that process wool all the way to yarn. A lot more of them just, process your fiber.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that.
All right.
So that's just briefly about carding. I have a drum carder. I have the carding, the combs that I use. I don't have a blending board, which would be kind of nice because do you remember I bought up at I think it was up on Whidbey Island at the Whidbey Island Spinners, little packets of mohair locks that were dyed. And those are great to blend in. So I was thinking I should probably it'd be nice to get a blending board, but all in good time, right?
Well, you can do that blending with your drum carder too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I've done it in the past. Because I did some at your house with your drum carder. So I should try it here. Anyway, so anything else we need to add to this topic?
I think if you are going to go look at the fleece processor list in the Ravelry group that we've posted, it's the fleece processing Ravelry group. If you are going to go look at that list, I would suggest starting at the most recent posts, because the thread has been going for like 6 years or something. So you know, something you get on page 1 is maybe not even there anymore.
Yeah. So,
well, I'd be interested in hearing what other people do. And also, you know, if you have a mill that you've used to process fleece that we haven't mentioned, maybe we could start a list.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe, yeah, we should. I know, like, some people have used shepherd's wool that does crazy, that yarn I like so much. People have had yarn processed there. Stonehenge, that's the one, the name of it I wanted to say, because they make shepherd's wool as their worsted weight. Yeah. So I know that they've had them. So maybe we should start a list, Kelly. If nobody's done it, maybe we need to do
it. Well, we can start by asking our listeners to provide us feedback. Yeah. With mills that they've used or that they know of in their area. We've got 3 California ones listed on our show notes for today. But yeah, we need to put in some other states.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
A project, yes. Just what I need. So anyway, but the summer spinning goes through Labor Day, which is September 6th. And we have 2 finished object threads. One is for finished spinning and the other one is for finished projects. So if you're making something out of hand spun, you can join us. You don't have to be spinning this summer to join in. Yeah.
Oh, coming in from the future to say that we forgot to tell you that we will have prizes from 3 Green Sisters again this year. We'll talk more about that next episode.
Okay, Kelly. So, and then do we have any more housekeeping?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll say goodbye.
All right, Marsha.
We'll talk in 2 weeks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit Two Ewes Fiber Adventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am betterinmotion and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 Ewes
doing our part for World Fleece.